You know, we usually think of revenge as this one big dramatic moment, but what if it's not? What if it's something that simmers for centuries? A blood feud that swallows up entire empires. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into. A story of vengeance so horrifying it starts with a shocking insult and ends with an atrocity that's almost unthinkable.
Okay, so look at this. On one hand, you've got this absolutely gruesome trophy, a cup made from an emperor's skull. And on the other hand, 15,000 soldiers, blinded. I mean, how are these two things possibly connected? They seem worlds apart, right? Well, they're not. They are literally chapter one and the final horrifying chapter of a 200-year story of imperial revenge.
All right, let's set the stage. We're going back to the turn of the 9th century. You've got the Bulgarian Empire, and they're on the rise under a guy named Khan Krum. They're expanding, they're getting powerful, and they're starting to really get on the nerves of the mighty Eastern Roman Empire. You know, the Byzantines. And the Romans, well, they were about to make a huge, huge mistake. So the Byzantine emperor at the time is Nicephorus I, and he is not having it. He sees these Bulgars as, upstarts challenging Rome's authority, and he decides, nope, not on my watch. It's time to make a statement. So in 811, he gets this massive army together with one simple goal: march into Bulgaria and show them who's boss.
But here's where it gets interesting. Khan Krum, the Bulgarian leader, he actually didn't want a fight. He sees this gigantic Roman army gathering on his border, and what does he do? He doesn't rally his troops for a big showdown. No, he sends messengers to ask for peace. He's trying to avoid a total disaster. Nikephoros, though, he sees this peace offer and just laughs it off. To him, it's not diplomacy, it's weakness, so he just flat out refuses. He marches his army straight to the Bulgarian capital, Pliska, and just destroys it. We're talking slaughtering people, looting everything, including Krum's personal treasury, and then, just to add insult to injury, he burns the whole city to the ground. And get this, even after all that, Krum tries one more time to make peace. And Nikephoros, who is basically high on his own victory at this point, just ignores him again. He's so arrogant, he doesn't even bother going home. He just lets his army roam around Bulgaria for months, looting and pillaging whatever they want. Okay, so Krum's been rejected twice. His capital is a pile of ashes. He's clearly reached his limit. He's thinking, all right, fine, if they don't want peace, then I'm going to teach them a lesson in pain, a lesson they will never forget. And this is where Krum shows he's not just a warrior, he's a brilliant strategist. He just watches. He lets the Roman army get sloppy and happy from all their looting, and while they're completely distracted, his own forces are moving silently behind them. They're building these huge wooden walls, sealing off the only way back home through the narrow mountain passes. The trap is set. And the Romans, they walk straight into it with no idea what's coming. So when Nikephoros finally decides, okay, fun's over, let's go home, his army is a mess. They're stretched out, disorganized, and then deep inside the pass, they see it. Their way is blocked. Before they can even figure out what's going on, Krum's army attacks from the high ground. It was an absolute slaughter. The entire Roman army was basically wiped out, and in the middle of all that chaos, Emperor Nikephoros himself is killed. But killing the emperor wasn't enough for Krum. Oh no. His revenge needed a centerpiece. He has Nikephoros' head cut off. Then he has the flesh boiled off the skull, lines the inside with silver, and turns it into a drinking cup, a gruesome trophy. He would toast his victories from it, and when Roman diplomats came to visit, he'd make them drink from their dead emperor's skull. Talk about the ultimate humiliation.
Now, an insult like that, an empire doesn't just forget it. And you'd be absolutely right. The memory of the skull cup just festered in the Byzantine court for nearly 200 years. A deep, burning wound, just waiting for the right emperor to come along and settle the score in the most terrible way imaginable. All right, let's jump forward 200 years. We're in the late 10th century now. The blood feud is back on. And this time it's between two new heavyweights, the Byzantine Emperor Basil II and the new Bulgarian ruler Tsar Samuel. And look, this wasn't just about borders anymore. After decades of really brutal fighting, the hatred between Basil and Samuel was deeply, deeply personal. And then it hit a boiling point. The Bulgarians managed to ambush and kill one of Basil's best friends, his most trusted general. And for Basil, that was it.
The war stopped being about land or strategy. It became about one thing and one thing only: pure personal vengeance. And he gets his chance on July 29th, 1014. The Battle of Cleidanian. This is it. This is the moment Basil has been waiting for. He gets the massive, decisive victory he's been craving. He doesn't just defeat Tsar Samuel's army, he completely crushes it. A total, game-changing victory. In the aftermath of that single battle, Basil's forces capture an insane number of prisoners. 15,000. 15,000 Bulgarian soldiers. An entire army just like that is now completely at his mercy.
So what does he do? Fueled by all this rage, for his friend, for the memory of that skull cup, Basil comes up with a punishment, an act of cruelty that is just off the charts. His order is terrifyingly specific. Divide the prisoners into groups of 100. Then, blind 99 men in each group. Just completely blind them. But the 100th man, he gets to keep one eye. Why? So he can lead the other 99 home. This is what makes it so diabolical. This wasn't just about hurting soldiers. Basil was thinking bigger. He was turning an army into a weapon against their own country. Suddenly, you have 15,000 men who can't fight, can't work. They're a walking catastrophe sent home to drain Bulgaria's resources and completely crush its spirit. And the psychological impact, it was more devastating than any weapon. Imagine Tsar Samuel seeing his army return, not marching, but this silent, stumbling column of thousands of blinded men. The shock, the sheer horror of that sight was too much for him. He had a massive heart attack on the spot and died 2 days later. Think about that. His act of revenge was so psychologically brutal, it literally killed his enemy without ever laying a hand on him. And for this, Emperor Basil II earned a title that would stick with him forever: Bulgar Oktanos, the Bulgar Slayer. So you see, this wasn't really a new war at all. It was the final, awful act of a play that started 2 centuries earlier. You can draw a straight, dark line from that skull cup all the way to this blinded army. And what that line shows is a terrifying escalation in cruelty. Let's just break it down. Crumb's revenge, yeah, it was gruesome, but it was also personal, symbolic. He desecrated one man's body to humiliate an empire. But Basil, his revenge, 200 years later, was something else entirely. It was cold, systematic, and strategic. He mutilated an entire army to bring a whole state to its knees. The weapon wasn't a silver cup anymore. The weapon was 15,000 living, suffering human beings. And that's the terrifying thing about these long-held imperial grudges, isn't it? What started as a personal insult to a dead emperor morphed over generations into an atrocity that devastated an entire society. The scale of the cruelty just spiraled into something almost unimaginable. So it really makes you wonder, this whole story, from the Skull Cup to the Bulgar Slayer, is this brutal lesson. It shows us that when empires decide it's time to settle a score, their memory is incredibly long. But the only thing more boundless might be their capacity for cruelty. Which leaves us with a really chilling final thought. When empires seek revenge, are there any limits at all?